I feel like most people, when they film these little sit-down videos, they get a cozy drink like a tea or coffee. I have cherry Coke Zero. To me, this is cozy. This is indulgent. Okay, today we're going to be doing a 5-star predictions video. Yes, I know it is June. Okay, like it's the middle of the year. I feel like most people film these videos in January, you know, with the new year. It's like, what are my 5 stars going to be this year? But literally, no one makes the rules. I make my own rules. I'm doing it right now. Ideally, I would probably read all of these before the end of the year. We'll see if that happens. But these are just some books that I think I will hopefully give 5 stars. I have never done this before. Like, obviously, I've never made a video like this before, but also just in my personal life, I've never looked at a book and thought, I'm going to give that 5 stars, just because I am not someone that like gives out 5 stars super easily. I would say if I read 100 books, maybe 8 of them are like 5 stars. I'm very stingy with my 5-star books. And a lot of the times it's like, I can't even explain why a book isn't 5 stars, just that it's not. Like, I'm one of those people. But the other day I just had the idea to do this, and I am curious to see if I am right. I hope that I am. At the very least, I hope that I don't like hate any of these books. I don't think I will. I think I'm going pretty safe. I am scared that none of them will be 5 stars, but that only time will tell. I'm doing 12 books. That just felt like the right number to me, especially if I am trying to finish this before the end of the year. You know, I'm not going to do 26 books for 2026 if we're already halfway through the year. And you'll basically see like 3 main genres on this list. 1, romance, which is my #1 read genre. So of course I had to include some romance books on here. 2, like literary fiction, general fiction, just like a fiction book, and then 3 classics. I have read very few classics. I was notorious in high school for not reading the assigned reading. So some of these on this list, honestly, they may have been assigned to me, but I did not read it. Maybe I watched the movie. Yeah, I was so bad. I was so bad in high school. I could do a whole video just reading the books that I was supposed to read in high school. Maybe I'll do that one day. I think let's just go ahead and get into the video. I don't think we need too much preamble here. Warning, I am probably going to read the synopsis of like a lot of different books. Some of them you've probably already heard of before, because I'm doing a lot of honestly pretty popular books. But either way, please stick around. I would love it if you did. And at the very least, you'll get a better sense of what I believe my reading taste is. Let's go ahead and do this kind of in no particular order. I'll keep you on your toes a little bit. We won't do all the classics at first. We won't, you know, we'll switch it up. The first book that I'll talk about is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I haven't read this book. I haven't read The Goldfinch. Obviously, this book has like always been on my mind. I think at this point it's like considered like a contemporary classic, but I was recently reminded of its existence and of my desire to read it because my coworker mentioned she read The Goldfinch. So naturally I followed it up with, have you read The Secret History? And she was like, yeah, I love it. And I was like, oh, I haven't read it. I cannot relate to you because I have no idea. But I know people go really hard for this book. I do think that this is a book that I'm going to really like. I love an academic setting, and I especially love when characters study the humanities. And in this book, the characters are classics students. I always wanted to take a classics class in undergrad. I was an art history major, which I feel like I constantly mention. I would look every single semester and I just never found one that like interested me enough, or one that like would work with my schedule. Let me go ahead and read you the synopsis of this book, the very first synopsis of this video. Truly deserving of the accolade modern classic, Donna Tartt's novel is a remarkable achievement, both compelling and elegant, dramatic and playful. Under the influence of their charismatic classics professor, a group of clever, eccentric misfits at an elite New England college discover a way of thinking and living that is a world away from the humdrum existence of their contemporaries. But when they go beyond the boundaries of normal morality, they slip gradually from obsession to corruption and betrayal, and at last, inexorably into evil. Wow. Okay, honest hour. I did technically already film this video, but I hated the way that it looked, so I'm refilming it now. And reading that synopsis reminded me that there is definitely an art to synopsis writing. That art is making the longest sentences possible, because why are there so many words in that sentence? Like, it's like very hard to read aloud because there's so many different parts. You have to like put the intonation in the right place and stuff. Next, let's go ahead and do our first traditional classic. That was like a modern classic. This is a traditional classic, I guess you could say, just an older one. You'll be very surprised. I think you'll be less surprised that I haven't read this classic as you will for the other classic in this video, but it is a little bit of a crime that I haven't read this yet. So I want you to bear with me. And that is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Obviously, I will not be reading this edition. This doesn't feel like an edition that is like really meant to be read. It's more so meant to be displayed, and it is beautiful. There is a little tiny synopsis on the back of this, so I'll read it to you now. This is, I think, also another one where it's a bit of a mouthful. With their father away at the Civil War, times are hard for the March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, and their mother, Marmee. Louisa May Alcott's moving coming-of-age story, whose homespun charm and core family values made it a cultural landmark in America, is enduringly popular all over the world. Definitely, whoever had to write this little synopsis, they were like, okay, you have 2 sentences, you have 1 sentence to tell them generally what the book is about, and the other sentence to remind everyone that this is a very popular book. I don't think I need to go and find a bigger synopsis. I think you guys kind of generally know what Little Women is about. If you don't know, I highly recommend the Greta Gerwig adaptation. It is breathtaking. Like, honestly, so good. I saw it years ago, but like I sobbed so hard that I've never rewatched it. I think I would love to read this and then rewatch it. Obviously, every book on this list I'm very interested in reading, but this one I am interested to read about the sisterhood between the March sisters. I don't have a sister, but I think that's what I'm most excited to read about in this book is the sisterhood, because I think that's kind of like the most important thing, right? Like, I think it's less so maybe the relationships that the sisters form with other people, with men, but I think probably the main takeaway is the relationship between the sisters. The next book I saw was slightly too similar, so we're gonna skip ahead. And why don't we actually do a romance? I think 3 books on this list that I don't actually have the physical version of, and they're a little bit more abstract. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a bit more abstract. Even in this 5-star predictions, I struggle to give myself any sort of TBR because I'm terrible at sticking to TBRs. So I'm giving myself a little bit of freedom. Very first kind of abstract bullet point on this list is a Brittany Cherry book. If you don't know who Brittany Cherry is, she's a romance author. Her books are known for being very angsty, I guess is the word. They're a bit more serious. They're sad. I've heard only amazing things, honestly. I don't have a particular book that I want to pick up from Brittany Cherry, but I'm thinking that one of them is going to be 5 stars. I know that I'll have to choose one eventually that I'm really saying, like, I think this book is going to be 5 stars, but I just, like, don't feel ready to commit to a book at the moment. So I'll probably end up choosing, like, whatever is her most popular book, or maybe, like, one that resonates with me a little bit more. But I am very confident that I'm going to love her books. I don't know what it is. I just am feeling it. Sometimes angsty romances really get me. Like, I hate when a book is sad for the purpose of being sad. Like, it's just like trauma porn, you know, like I hate that, honestly. Like, I really, really don't like it. But sometimes the angsty romances really get me. And I really, really feel for the couple, and I can feel the change and the growth that they go through to be together. And that's what I'm hoping to see in one of these books. Okay, I think we can go ahead and go back to a physical book now. It's a little bit different from the other 2 books that I showed you. I don't think anyone would ever consider this book to be a classic, and that is Happy Hour by Marlo Granados. I have been wanting to read this book for so long. I started it at some point and then like I put it down. It was just like not the time, but I am just like so convinced that I'm going to love this book. I picked this book up randomly. I think it's like I saw the cover and I loved it, and then after that I saw people talking about it. I've heard this described as like a sticky New York summer, and something about that, I just resonate with that so much. I'm working on like a personal summer curriculum / like summer bucket list / summer TBR. That is definitely something I'm really latching on to, is like a sticky New York summer. Even though I don't live in New York and I just moved to a new city, you think I should be thinking about like a sticky Chicago summer, but I'm thinking about a sticky New York summer. Let me read you the synopsis of this book so you can get an idea of what this is about. Issa Epley, all of 21 years old, is already wise enough to understand that the purpose of life is the pursuit of pleasure. She arrives in New York with her newly blonde best friend looking for adventure. They have little money, but that's hardly going to stop them. By day, the girls sell clothes on a market stall, pinching pennies for their Bed-Stuy sublet and bodega lunches. By night, they weave between Brooklyn, the Upper East Side, and the Hamptons among a rotating cast of celebrities, artists, internet entrepreneurs, stuffy intellectuals, and bad-mannered grifters. Resources run ever tighter, and the strain tests their friendship as they try to convert social capital into something more lasting than precarious gigs as au pairs, nightclub hostesses, paid audience members, and aspiring foot fetish models. Through it all, Issa's bold, beguiling voice captures a precise thrill of cultivating a life of glamour and intrigue as she juggles paying her dues with skipping out on the bill. Happy Hour is a novel about getting by and having fun in a system that wants you to do neither. And then there's like a tiny blurb at the top that just compares Marlo Granado's writing to Otesha Moshfegh and Nancy Mitford, and that she brilliantly captures the summer of striving in New York City. See, that's what I'm looking for. It's like exactly what I'm looking for. I've been wanting to read this book for so long, like literally since it came out. So I need to read it, like honestly, this summer. Like if I'm going to read any of the books in the summer, it has to be this one. The next book we actually are kind of getting out of the 3 genres that I said that were going to be in this video. Like I said, most of the books would be under those 3 genres. And this is why I say mostly, because this one book is not one of those 3. And that is The Long Way Home to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is sci-fi. Have recently heard really great things about this and Becky Chambers' writing in general. I don't read a ton of sci-fi. Honestly, I've read extremely little, but I think that I will like sci-fi. You know, just like everyone else, I saw the Project Hail Mary adaptation and it was probably the best movie I've seen this year. Like it was so good. And I have no problem with space novels. I have no problem with space. I have no problem with exploring space through a character's eyes. And obviously Becky Chambers has like a decent amount of sci-fi novels, but something about this one made me choose it first. So now you know what time it is. It's time to read the synopsis. When Rosemary Harper joins the crew of the Wayfarer, she isn't expecting much. The patched-up ship has seen better days, but it offers her everything she could possibly want. A spot to call home, a chance to explore the far-off corners of the galaxy, and some distance from her past. And nothing could be further from what she's known than the crew of the Wayfarer. From Sissix, the exotic reptilian pilot, to Kizzy and Jinx, the chatty engineers who keep the ship running, to the noble Captain Ashby, life aboard is chaotic and crazy, exactly what Rosemary wants. That is, until the crew is offered a job of a lifetime, tunneling wormholes through space to a distant planet. Sure, they'll earn enough money to live comfortably for years, but risking her life wasn't part of the job description. The journey through the galaxy is full of excitement, adventures, and mishaps for the Wayfarer team. And along the way, Rosemary comes to realize that a crew is a family, and that family isn't necessarily the worst thing in the universe, as long as you actually like them. So obviously we have a ton of found family in this book. I know that people really love the found family trope, and I think I do too. I mean, I think it's hard to not like that trope. I don't know anyone that would be like, I hate found family, but I would say it's not one that I'm looking for in every single book. I guess the ones that I have read, I have really enjoyed. So I'm hoping that this is definitely a found family that I will like. I'm curious about Rosemary Harper and what she's escaping from her previous life. Let's go back to romance. This time I do actually have a specific, hey, did you see that? Let's go back to romance. This time I do have a specific book to talk about, and that is Left to Forever by Tara DeWitt. This one is technically probably the most promising book on this list because I have given another Tara DeWitt book 5 stars before. The rest of the books actually are all new to me authors. Yes, I read Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt 2 or 3 years ago now, and I gave it 5 stars. I couldn't tell you what happens in that book. I've almost nearly completely forgotten, but I really loved it. And I thought it was very well done. And that was even before Tara DeWitt was traditionally published. So I'd like to think that maybe now her books are even better because they have some more eyeballs on them. Maybe, I don't know. Left to Forever. This book came out last year, I believe. And it is a second chance romance, which I do also love. Not my favorite romance trope, but it's far from my least. Before even reading the synopsis, I can already say that I think that Tara DeWitt is going to do a second chance romance really well. I think she's really good at weaving in those kind of more emotional aspects of a relationship. So let's read the synopsis. Ren and Ellis Bird fell in love as kids, had their son Sam when they were only teenagers, and built a life together in the coastal town of Spoons, Oregon. They were made for one another until they fell apart. Now divorced and in their 30s, Ren runs the bakery in town, while Ellis works as a firefighter. They live separate lives, though they are hardly off each other's minds. When Ellis and Ren move Sam into college, Ellis convinces Ren to take an extended road trip back to Spoons to see if they can give their relationship one last chance. Amid the gorgeous California coastline and the intimacy they have missed for years, Ren starts to think it just might be possible. But can the past truly be left behind? When words fail and old wounds resurface, it's a soul-bearing letter that could finally reveal the truth or close the door on them forever. Another thing I forgot is Tara DeWitt is like working on a whole world of books in this town in Oregon, like this fictional town called Spoons. So, you know, like Forks, Washington. I think that's hilarious. This, I think, would be another great book to read in the summer because technically I've never been to North California, but I have been to Oregon and I've been to Washington. I've been to their coasts and they are breathtakingly beautiful and amazing summer trips, honestly. So this would be a great one. The landscape would be slightly different in North California, but it's like very close to Oregon, you know? I was about to do the classic that I think you guys will be extremely shocked that I have not read, but instead let's do one of the more abstract ones. One of the ones where I don't actually have like a specific book to read, but I feel like one of the books in this category will be 5 stars, so that's why it's here. And that is one of the books published by 831 Stories. So 831 Stories is a romance publisher. They're fairly new, I think maybe like a year or two old, and they publish solely romance books that are kind of bite-sized, like they're around like 150 to 200 pages. They are doing something different, I think, at least from what I have seen and what I've noticed. It feels like they're kind of publishing books that are at the intersection of romance and literary fiction. Maybe I'm like slightly wrong in that, but that is just how I view it, how I see it. I've read one of the books from them, which is the first book that they published and possibly the most popular book, Big Fan by Alexandra Romanoff. I really liked it. That is a very, very good book. I thought it was very fun. I thought it was different too. It wasn't necessarily romance with a capital R. There was something different going on there. And I just feel like one of these books is going to be 5 stars. Now, again, I want to eventually narrow that down to like one specific book that I'm like, yes, this one's going to be 5 stars. So probably what I'll do is I'll find one that really resonates with me the most, and I will say, hey, this is the one that I think will be 5 stars. If you haven't checked out 831 Stories, I highly recommend Big Fan. Honestly, any of them, I've had a pretty easy time getting them through my library, which has been great also. And they have a fantastic podcast all about romance. Okay, now we'll get to the big guy. Big, like it's not that long. I don't even think it's going to be that hard to read, but it's like pretty insane that I have not read this book before. I'm like a little ashamed, honestly. It's Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I've never read this book. Can you believe it? Again, I'm like 99% sure that I was assigned this in high school and I did not read it. I remember watching some adaptation, and I only would have watched the adaptation if it was assigned to me. So that's why I'm thinking that it was assigned. This goes without saying. Not only do I feel like I need to read this because it's like the classic that everyone has read, but also I feel like it's so essential to read this to like really be a romance fan. I am such a huge romance fan. I am very proud to read romance, and I feel like this is not necessarily exactly where it started, but it is definitely an important text in the genre. Do I even need to tell you what this is about? I'll read you a synopsis. Let's see what the synopsis actually is. You know, I am curious. I bet the synopsis on Goodreads will not even say what the book is about, because that is the case a lot of the time with these like classics. They don't actually tell you what the book's about because they just assume that you know what it's about. And that's fair. Yeah, Pride and Prejudice has charmed generations of readers for more than 2 centuries. Jane Austen's much adapted novel is framed for its witty, spirited heroine, sensational romances, and deft remarks on the triumphs and pitfalls of social convention. Author Jane Austen was an English novelist who works of social realism achieved unprecedented critical and popular success through Austen herself remained as an anonymous writer throughout her life. They don't need to tell us what this book is about because we're already supposed to know. The next book on this list I've only heard about this year. Very possible I was living under a rock, a really big romance-shaped rock. But the book that I did just learn about this year is The Constellation of Vital Phenomena by Anthony Marra. I have gotten 2 absolutely raving reviews on this book. Well, not like, they weren't like super long, but I could just tell that the people that I heard about this book from really, really liked it. One was a girl that I met up with, like a stranger. Like when you move to a new city, like I have, you tend to meet up with strangers a decent amount. One of the girls in this group had gotten a tattoo for this book, and I feel like you cannot give more of a recommendation of a book, or just like you can't really express your love of a book more than getting a tattoo for it. Like that's a pretty big deal. So that immediately made me want to pick it up. And then on Indie Bookstore Day, I was doing a little crawl and I saw it recommended with with a bookseller recommendation. And when I went to go check out, the bookseller checking me out was like, this book is incredible. It's like so good. I think they said you can basically turn to any page and every sentence that you read will be like the most beautiful sentence you've ever read in your life. Pretty crazy thing to say about a book. So this one has a real synopsis, so I can read that to you. In the final days of December 2004, in a small rural village in Chechnya, 8-year-old Hava hides in the woods when her father is abducted by Russian forces. Fearing for her life, she flees with their neighbor Ahmed, a failed physician, to the bombed-out hospital where Sonia, the one remaining doctor, treats a steady stream of wounded rebels and refugees and mourns her missing sister. Over the course of 5 dramatic days, Ahmed and Sonia reach back into their past to unravel the intricate mystery of coincidence, betrayal, and forgiveness that unexpectedly binds them and decides their fate. With the English patient's dramatic sweep and the tiger's wife expert sense of place, A Constellation of Vital Phenomena is Anthony Marra's searing debut about the transcendent power of love in wartime and how it can cause us to become greater than we ever thought possible. This is definitely not a book that I would normally pick up, honestly. Like, I don't feel like I read a lot of books set in wartime, even if I am picking up like a literary fiction book or honestly even like a historical fiction. I don't think I normally would pick up a book like this. So I am definitely very interested to see if I end up giving this 5 stars because then those people are right, honestly. Where are you guys going? Okay, I think we only have 3 books left. Let's go ahead and do the last book that I don't have with me here physically. It's not as vague though. It is a specific book, and that is Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. If you don't know who Beverly Jenkins is, she is like one of the trailblazers of historical romance. I have read one of her books before. I think it was called A Chance at Love, maybe. And that book honestly had my favorite FMC of any book that I've ever read in my whole life. Indigo in particular is a book that is definitely her most popular book. And it is just a very important book to the romance genre. And I would love to read it. And I want to read more Beverly Jenkins. That is definitely for sure. I want to read more from her. Not necessarily a book to start with because I have technically already started with Beverly Jenkins. Certainly a book that I need to prioritize. And I think by putting it on this list, I am definitely prioritizing it. Let me find you a synopsis. This one should surely have a real synopsis on Goodreads. Okay, the synopsis is kind of long, so I have to take another sip of my Coke Zero. Probably should be sipping on water, not that. I feel like this is not going to help me read. As a child, Hester White escaped slavery, but now the dark-skinned beauty is a dedicated member of Michigan's Underground Railroad, offering other runaways a chance at the freedom she has learned to love. When one of her fellow conductors brings her an injured man to hide, Hester doesn't hesitate even after she is told about the price on his head. The man in question is the great conductor known as the Black Daniel, a vital member of the North's Underground Railroad network, but Hester finds him so rude and arrogant she begins to question her vow to hide him. When the injured and beaten Galen, I don't know if it's Galen or Galen, we'll say Galen Vichon, aka the Black Daniel, awakens in Hester's cellar. He is unprepared for the feisty young conductor providing his care. As a member of one of the wealthiest free black families in New Orleans, Galen has turned his back on the lavish living he is accustomed to in order to provide freedom to those enslaved in the South. However, as he heals, he cannot turn his back on Hester Wyatt. Her innocence fills him like a breath of fresh air, and he is determined to make her his. But traitors have to be found, slave catchers have to be routed, and Hester's refusal to trust her own heart have to be overcome before she and Galen can find the freedom only love can bring. I will listen to a tiny bit of the audiobook just so I can know how to pronounce his name, because I hate not knowing how to pronounce the characters' names. Like I said, this is a classic historical romance, and I recently read Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas, which I feel like is another classic historical romance, so I may as well knock this one off my list. Maybe I can do a thing where any 5-star predictions that I do, I have to include at least one historical romance that's considered to be like a classic of the genre. The next 2 books I have physical copies of, so we can just read the synopsis from there, hopefully. The next book is extremely popular and extremely highly regarded. In fact, Time called it the best book of the 20th century. So if you're familiar with that list, you know what this book is. That is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I bought this copy basically right after Time released their list because, okay, if you're saying it's the best book of the century, I gotta check it out. I will, of course, read you the synopsis, but from what I know, this book is set in Italy, in Naples, I believe, and it follows 2 friends, and it's supposed to be like a very good look at female friendship. Let me go ahead and read you the synopsis so you have a better idea than just my assumptions. From one of Italy's most acclaimed authors comes this ravishing and generous-hearted novel about a friendship that lasts a lifetime. The story of Elena and Lila begins in the neighborhood of a poor but vibrant neighborhood on the outskirts of Naples. Growing up on these tough streets, the 2 girls learn to rely on each other ahead of anyone or anything else, as their friendship, beautifully and meticulously rendered, becomes a not always perfect shelter from hardship. Ferrante has created a memorable portrait of 2 women, but My Brilliant Friend is also the story of a nation. Through the lives of Elena and Lila, Ferrante gives her readers the story of a neighborhood, a city, and a country undergoing momentous change. And then it talks about the HBO show, which, fun fact, my aunt was begging me to read the HBO show, and I was like, no, I have to read the book. So I have to read the book, and then maybe I can actually watch a show, and I can be like, hey, I watched the show that you were obsessed with, finally. Okay, we're finally at our last book, right? Hold on, let me double check before I say that. The Women, Pride and Prejudice, My Brilliant Friend, Happy... Yes, we're officially on the last book. And this one, I think you'll be shocked that I haven't read, not because it's a classic, but it is so extremely popular. People love this book and love this series, and I think I'm going to love this book and love this series because it seems like a lot of fun, honestly. And that is, of course, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. These books are so popular, and they just seem like a lot of fun. People just seem to have a lot of fun reading them. I have technically read a little bit of this. We listened to this actually on our way up from Houston to Chicago when we did our big drive up. Something about long drives and Audiobooks for me personally don't mix well together. I get very sleepy, and I was the one driving, and I was like, we got to turn this off because it's like, it's too monotonous. It's just the way that audiobooks are recorded. Like, it's just like, it makes me want to go to sleep, basically. So we turned it off. We got to the part where like the inciting incident happens, basically. They talk about here on the synopsis, but basically we got to the part where like everything like changes. So let me read you the synopsis so you have a better idea of like what is changing. You know, it's worse than breaking up with your girlfriend, being stuck with her prize-winning show cat. And you know what's worse than that? An alien invasion, the destruction of all man-made structures on Earth, and the systematic exploitation of the survivors for a sadistic intergalactic game show. That's what. Join Coast Guard vet Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donna, as they try to survive the end of the world, or just get to the next level in a video game-like trap-filled fantasy dungeon. A dungeon that's actually the set of a reality television show with countless viewers across the galaxy. Exploding goblins, magical potions, deadly drug-dealing llamas, this ain't your ordinary game show. Sounds like fun. Also, thank God this is the last book because I am stumbling through these synopses at this point. I do worry that this book kind of teeters on slightly too silly for me. You know, like some of the humor might not really land well with me, but there's only one way to find out, and that is to read this. I hope I love this because I would love to be like obsessed with a book series and just know that like, because there's like more coming out, right? Like surely, I mean, there's already like 5 or 6 out, but I feel like there's more coming out. I haven't heard that it's like ending. So I would love to like be obsessed with it because I love being obsessed with stuff, and I want to be obsessed with this like everyone else is. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for letting me read you the synopsis of many, many books. I'm very curious to know if you've read any of these books. There's a good chance you have because a lot of them are very popular, but I'm curious to know what you gave them if you have read them, if they were 5 stars for you too. I think I chose a pretty safe list. I hope, but again, I am very stingy with my 5 stars, so we'll see. And like I said, I am hoping to read these by the end of this year, so I'd love it if you stuck around and you can see what I did actually end up giving these. But I am going to go ahead and go now, and I will talk to you guys a little bit later. Bye!